Coming up on Global Business, growth in China's manufacturing sector slowed in March on subdued production, a private survey showed on Monday. China's economic planner reiterates its resolve to boost development of digital economy, including industrial digitalization and digitalized public services. And oil prices surged on Monday following unexpected oil output cut from the OPEC Plus. From CGTN headquarters in Beijing, this is Global Business. I'm Zhu Jufeng. First up, growth in China's manufacturing sector slowed in March after expanding in February for the first time in 7 months, a private survey showed on Monday. The Caixin China Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, stood at 50, down 1.6% points from February. 50 is exactly the benchmark that separates expansion from contraction. The Caixin figure is also in line with the official PMI data range. Factory owners, however, are confident about future operations, with the confidence index still above the long-term average. Businesses generally expect a return to normal operations in a year. The latest PMI data showed growth in China's manufacturing sector stalled last month. It's a stark contrast to the pace of growth seen for the services sector. But what does it mean for the Chinese economic recovery? My colleague Timothy Pope sat down with Joe Hao, chief economist at Guotai Junan Securities, to discuss the future and the forecast as we enter the second quarter of 2023.
I want to talk about the latest PMI figures first, with the official figures out last week for manufacturing showing a 51.9 and the Caixin out today showing a flat 50. Why are we seeing such a big difference between the manufacturing sector's recovery and the expansion for the non-manufacturing sector, for the services sector? Because that, on the official side, was at a 12-year high.
From a manufacturing perspective, I think this is quite normal, because after the rapid kind of rebound of the first kind of recovery phase, now we are going to a relatively stable phase or stable kind of momentum. This is the case for the manufacturing side. So for the service PMI, I think this is very encouraging to see that the consumption continued to gain traction. So I think this is basically a surprise or upside surprise to the markets as well. So because people always thought that basically the consumption will also gradually stabilized after the kind of rapid recovery during the Spring Festival. But now definitely we saw something different. I think basically that shows that consumption will continue to be the most important driver for the Chinese economy this year.
Dining out, clothing, a lot of that sort of stuff has come back quite fast. But have the big ticket items, things with higher price tags, maybe new cars, new homes, that recovery is still fairly slow, is it not?
Of course, we can see that the housing sales basically relatively flat from February to now. I think basically this is kind of same implication for the manufacturing sector as well. So this is a phase-by-phase stuff. But for the kind of small items, for example, the dining out, this is kind of relatively continuous. But for the big stuff, big items, looks like this phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So I think phase recovery remains the same for the manufacturing, for both manufacturing and the bulk consumption for now in China.
Industrial profits are also still fairly low. When can we expect those to start to recover?
To be honest, the negative growth for the first 2 months was a surprise to me as well. And basically, I think the market has also revised down the expectations for the overall kind of manufacturing sector, especially after the manufacturing PMI are coming out these days. There might be some kind of statistical kind of issue. Basically, that will be gradually phased out in the number soon. So overall speaking, we still expect to see some sort of modest recovery for the manufacturing side for the whole year. So basically, if we see kind of that the GDP growth at 5%, for example, maybe the manufacturing or industrial production will be around that level as well for the whole year.
How is Chinese monetary policy feeding the recovery. We have had a recent cut to the bank's reserve requirements to the RRR, but could we also see a broader cut in interest rates?
If you look at the mortgage rates in China for now, it's relatively elevated or a bit too high in my opinion. So I think the PBOC or the Chinese Central Bank need to kind of lower the overall funding cost for the economy, particularly for the property buyers. So I think people need to kind of enjoy relatively favorable kind of interest rates, mortgage interest rates, for now in China. Going forward, that will also help the consumption to be booming up, to be kind of picking up in the next few years or in the foreseeable future as well.
The China Third International Consumer Products Expo is just in a week's time. It will be held in Haikou, the capital city of South China's tropical island province of Hainan. An official said the expo would help optimize China's business environment and provide a boost to the global economy. Take a listen.
本届消博会筹办过程当中，
Preparation work for the third China International Consumer Products Expo has entered the home stretch. The total area of this year's expo will reach 100,000 square meters, a 20% increase compared with last year. More than 3,000 brands are coming from over 60 countries and regions. As this year's guest of honor, Italy will bring over 140 brands to the expo, double the number of brands that the guest of honor brought last year. A slew of global purchasing agents are expecting to explore their markets in China and seek new orders through the event. This year's Consumer Expo will serve as a platform to optimize consumer supply, smooth consumer channels, boost consumer confidence, and shore up the dual-cycle development architecture with the domestic circle as the mainstay and with domestic and international development reinforcing each other.
Duty-free shopping in the coastal province of Hainan is expected to get a major boost with the introduction of several new pickup policies. Our Liao Zhu has more.
Previously, tourists leaving Hainan Island could collect their duty-free purchases at designated spots, including the airport, railway station or port terminal. That changed on April 1st when two new policies were introduced. The first, known as the deposit-backed pickup, applies to duty-free items valued at more than 50,000 yuan. Customers get to take their purchases with them straight away by paying a deposit equal to the tariff and tax benefit applied to the product. The deposit is returned on departure once customers' officials have verified the duty-free items have not been used on the island. The second option, known as buy and pickup, applies to products that cost less than 20,000 yuan, including cosmetics, perfume, bags, and baby formula.
It is convenient. I can buy sunscreen and sunglasses and pick them up right away.
We weren't able to take expensive goods with us immediately in the past. Now I think it is key to offer consumers more diversified and convenient choices.
The duty-free goods are classified as commodities for personal use. They cannot be resold and must be taken off Hainan Island. The new policies cover 15 product categories.
Using these two methods of delivery requires customers to leave Hainan within 30 days from the date of purchase. If they cannot provide a legitimate reason for failing to leave the island in that time, they will not be able to enjoy the island's tax-free shopping policy for 3 years.
The introduction of the new pickup policies has seen duty-free stores in Hainan increase their stocks of items such as perfume, sunglasses, and bags.
The new policy is helpful in boosting consumption and consumer confidence, and further help build Hainan into an international tourism and consumption destination. It is expected that Hainan's offshore duty-free shopping will move to a new level.
Liao Zhu, Sansha Satellite TV in Hainan for CGTN.
China's National Development and Reform Commission reiterated on Monday its resolve to boost the development of digital economy in 6 broad areas this year. The government body said it would aim to build a comprehensive policy system and deploy digital infrastructure construction in advance. The NDRC also called for a complete industrial digital transition and a steady improvement of digitalized public services. A more deepened cooperation with the international community was also highlighted during the meeting. China has been ramping up its efforts to boost the progress in building a digital China in various sectors. A guideline was rolled out recently to direct the overall layout of the country's digital development. The plan set an interconnected digital infrastructure, an improved digital economy, and major breakthroughs in digital technology should be achieved by 2025. According to the plan, China will be at the global forefront in digital development by 2035. Meanwhile, its digital progress in various fields should be more coordinated and sufficient. The plan also highlighted support for applications of digital technology in other aspects, including agriculture, finance, and medical services. Promoting agricultural modernization is essential to achieving what's known as China's high-quality development. A new series, Vibrant Land, explores how digital technologies are changing modern agriculture. In the first episode, our Wu Lei takes a look at tea production in eastern China.
Harvesting of Westlake Longjing tea in Zhejiang province begins in March. A premium quality green tea, it's mainly farmed in Longjing village in the Westlake district of the provincial capital Hangzhou. Only around 500 tons of this tea is produced each year, but market demand for the product is huge. Qi Yingjie and his family have been growing Longjing tea for generations.
For consumers, one of the biggest difficulties when buying Westlake Longjing tea is that they often don't know how to choose the authentic Longjing tea and are afraid of buying fake brand tea.
Local authorities are providing farmers and producers with special packaging labels to certify the authenticity of the tea based on where it's grown.
If you have 1 mu or 666 square meters of a tea plantation, you will receive the anti-counterfeit labels to cover around 25 kilograms of Westlake Longjing tea. When consumers scan the QR code on the label, they will know where the tea leaves are planted and produced.
Tea farmers traditionally had to rely solely on their experience, with no modern technology to help them deal with unpredictable changes in the weather. This high-tech power and meteorological equipment is installed on the top of the mountain, collecting weather data and monitoring the yield and quality of Longjing tea trees. Powered by the sun and wind, these facilities operate 24 hours a day.
We collect data including air temperature and humidity, wind direction, rainfall, and atmospheric pressure. The data are sent back to our system in real time. It will offer detailed reference for tea plantation management so as to improve the quality of the tea.
Ni Yong says his company has installed more than 20,000 sets of this equipment across China, offering digital solutions for farming fruits, rice, and other foods. Now companies are working together to combine technologies such as 5G, AI, and blockchain to support agricultural production.
We use blockchain technology to ensure the production, sales, and traceability of all Longjing tea. This is our blockchain ID card. The certificate on the blockchain, it cannot be tampered with or be eliminated in any way to ensure the authenticity of the data.
China is one of the world's largest tea markets, and it's hoped more digital technologies can be used to help the agricultural sector meet growing consumer demand. Wu Lei, CGTN, Hangzhou, Zhejiang Province.
You're watching Global Business coming up in the program. Oil prices surged on Monday following unexpected oil output cut from the OPEC+.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
Welcome back. OPEC Plus announced an oil output cut on Sunday. While the move will pull over 1 million barrels of oil from the market each day between May and the end of 2023. CGTN's Jim Stenman has more.
On Sunday, OPEC Plus announced oil output cuts in the region of 1.16 million barrels per day. The move, which took some by surprise, is expected to contribute to an immediate increase in prices, and the White House has warned against it. According to a Reuters calculation, it will bring the total volume of cuts by OPEC Plus, which includes Saudi Arabia and Russia, to 3.66 million barrels per day, or 3.7% of global demand. The decision by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies came just a day ahead of a virtual meeting of an OPEC Plus ministerial panel where many expected current cuts of 2 million barrels per day to remain. Just last month, oil prices fell towards $70 a barrel, the lowest in 15 months, over concerns of how a global banking crisis may impact demand. Sunday's announcement could lift oil prices by $10 per barrel. That's according to Pickering Energy Partners. Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil producer, will cut its output by 500,000 barrels per day in a move it says is designed to support the stability of the oil market. Now, it is not the first time that OPEC Plus finds itself at odds with the White House. Late last year, the group decided to cut output, which boosts oil prices due to tighter demand, just ahead of America's crucial midterm elections.
Oil prices surged on Monday following an unexpected announcement of oil output cuts. Brent crude is trading above $85 a barrel after jumping by more than 6.4%. West Texas Intermediate crude contrast rose by as much as 6.5% to around $80.6 a barrel. U.S. merchant bank Goldman Sachs lifted its forecast for Brent to $95 a barrel by the end of the year and to $100 for 2024. The oil producers' move has spread through European stock markets, and oil major BP, Total, Shell all rose around 4%, sending the European oil and gas index up 3.7%, set for its biggest one-day gain since November. For more on the OPEC Plus plan to reduce our output, let's cross to our Alex Cadier in Brussels. Alex, this is quite an unexpected move from OPEC. What are the major reasons, the rationale behind the move?
Well, a very unexpected move from OPEC. Just yesterday we were hearing mumblings and rumors and people reporting on background that actually OPEC was going to be looking at staying the course, keeping the production level as it was. And so that announcement today coming as a big surprise. Now, the rationale officially from Saudi Arabia and obviously from other OPEC members is that it's a precautionary measure meant to stabilize the oil market. And you would understand that if you see what the oil market has done for the last year since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It's been a pretty volatile situation which has been felt both by industry and by consumers, not just here in Europe, but really across the world. So that's the official answer. The understanding by some analysts behind the scenes is that actually these OPEC countries were a little bit worried when that price of oil dropped to $70 a barrel, as we just heard, and they really want to keep it above that $80 mark. As you said, it's gone above that now, and Goldman Sachs predicting it'll go much, much further, much higher than that by the end of the year. So the real question is how that'll impact the reality on the ground. So really quite a surprising move by those 28 oil-producing countries, 23 oil-exporting countries, I should say, those OPEC Plus members, really shoring their position up and trying to stabilize, or so they say, the oil market. So that's quite a shocking or surprising announcement, certainly not one that was expected in the last 24 hours, but we'll have to see in the next few weeks what the impact will be on the ground.
Right. The past winter has seen some of the biggest cost of living crisis for European countries. We can see from the recent protest of people demanding higher pay. How would this oil output cuts and the rising oil prices having on its impact on Europe's cost of living crisis?
Yeah, that's a really crucial question, and it's really the crux of how this will impact Europe. Now, some consumer groups are saying, look, if this market reaction to the OPEC announcement, if that oil price going up by 6.4%, if that's just a knee-jerk market reaction, if that's the market being the market and then it stabilizes, then we might not necessarily see an impact at the pumps. But if you're looking at that Goldman Sachs prediction that it's going to go up to $95 a barrel by the end of the year, then you can imagine that there's going to be an impact for consumers at the pumps, and that will be not just consumers but industry across the board. Now that cost of living crisis in many ways was starting to ease across Europe. Gas prices down to pre-invasion of Ukraine levels. So really that kind of inflation down. We heard in the last couple of days or end of last week, inflation was down. The sharpest drop month on month that has ever been recorded. So we've seen some encouraging signs. So this will have been a bit of a shock or an unfortunate development for those signs of hope, with those gas prices coming down, inflation coming down. There were little glimmers of hope ahead of the summer. But if this is consistent and the oil price stays high in the markets, there will be an impact at the pumps, and that will be felt most sharply by businesses and consumers across Europe. So at the moment, monitoring, hoping that things stabilize, but it could have a serious impact.
Thank you so much for the update, Alex Cadia, for us in Brussels. Moving on to some other business headlines from across Europe. Activity at struggling factories across the Eurozone fell further last month as consumers feeling the pinch from rising living costs cut back. That's according to a survey which did show the cost of manufacturing fell for the first time since mid-2020. British manufacturers slipped deeper into decline in March, but turned more optimistic about the future as cost pressure and supply chain problems eased off. The S&P service gauge of cost paid by manufacturers eased to its lowest level since June 2020. And Turkey's annual inflation rate slowed to 50% in March, delivering another boost for President Tayyip Erdogan ahead of May elections. The inflation rate slowed for a fifth consecutive month from a high of more than 85%. Now, artificial intelligence tools are rapidly advancing, especially in the field of generative AI. One of the companies leading the charge is tech giant Microsoft, which has the advantage of being an early investor in the OpenAI artificial intelligence. Its major breakthrough, ChatGPT, has already become a hit globally. So what will be the next? Mark New has a story.
Decline in sales growth this period.
Microsoft is bringing the power of generative artificial intelligence to its most popular software programs, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. At an online launch event, this company executive showed how Microsoft 365 Copilot can quickly draw on information from previous emails to draft an invitation for her daughter's graduation. Type in a few more personal details, and in seconds, Copilot can dig through archives to beautify and animate the invitation, filling it with images and videos.
The average person uses less than 10% of what PowerPoint can do. Copilot unlocks the other 90%.
Copilot can turn Word documents into PowerPoints and vice versa. For businesses, in seconds, it can draw on customer notes to create a proposal complete with relevant visual materials.
You're not going to send this off to a customer without a thorough review. But Copilot still saved you tons of time in the process.
Microsoft has jumped in and fully embraced where automation and AI are coming together. And so their investment in OpenAI gave them access to these ChatGPT-4 large language libraries. And basically, that's the ability to take what we're talking about in text and convert it back into computer code.
The launch of Microsoft 365 Copilot comes just days after OpenAI launched its newest version of ChatGPT, ChatGPT-4. How smart is it? Well, it used to be able to handle 4,000 words. Now it's able to handle up to 25,000 word responses. And OpenAI claims the chatbot took the bar exam, which is the test U.S. lawyers need to get licensed, and the original version scored in the 10th percentile, while ChatGPT-4 scored in the 90th percentile.
In an online video, OpenAI shows off ChatGPT-4's logical thinking.
For example, it can tell us that if the strings in this image were cut, the balloons would fly away.
But in its early days, users have continued to catch generative AI programs making mistakes.
There's a lot of false positives and false negatives. For example, for a while, ChatGPT-3 said, I went to Harvard. My mom was thrilled, but I wrote a book for Harvard. I didn't go to Harvard. And so those little things are actually being cleaned up. What we do worry about is the level of disinformation that's out there. We also look at the level of potentially copyright infringement that might occur and plagiarism.
Some of the other considerations would have to do with bias and have to do with, respecting individuals. There's been a lot of work that's gone into trying to debias these algorithms, and we should definitely not just squash them down. These are technologies that we should continue to develop, but we need to figure out what the right applications are.
One potentially powerful application OpenAI demonstrated is uploading a handwritten note to ChatGPT-4 and in minutes turning it into a functioning website. Mark Liu, CGTN, San Francisco.
Taiwan's leader Tsai Ing-wen's transit visit to the U.S. has attracted considerable attention from the international community. Besides expressing their displeasure, several international experts have said they will continue to support China's national integrity. Our reporter Olivia He spoke to the honorary chairman of the UK-based World Taiwanese Chamber of Commerce on the matter. Take a listen.
How do entrepreneurs in Taiwan cope with political developments? And based on the present situation, do you think economic and trade relations between the Chinese mainland and Taiwan will change?
First, trade across the strait has been adjusted. Second, some Taiwan businesses have moved their factory to overseas. Third, high-tech cooperation across the strait has slowed down. We continue to pay carefully attention to U.S.-China relations. This has been impact for cross-strait business.
I know you've been based in the UK for a long time, so can you tell us a bit about how the international community is reacting to the visit?
Foreign media reported on the protesting against the Taiwan visit to New York. Most of the Americans want more jobs and a better school. They do not want more weapons for Taiwan. They should seek improve trade with China. And at the same time, Ma Ying-jeou visited the mainland, so Taiwan visit and the press report were very low-key. Also, the White House canceled the Taiwan transit briefing. People on both sides of the strait are absolutely supporting reunification with the motherland. The name of our Chinese nation is united. United is the strength. Strength is iron. Strength is steel. China, peaceful unification is the end. Two sides peaceful.
With that, we'll wrap up this edition of Global Business on CGTN. I'm Peter. Thanks for watching. CGTN continues with more news and views. Stay with us.